Hey everyone, it's Justin again. Before beginning this lesson on finding midpoints, we need to be super comfortable with finding averages. So, in your notes template, there's a review. There's also a short video clip to watch and some problems to try. Make sure that you check in with your parent and have those review problems correct before continuing with this lesson. Pause the video now and resume once you have this done. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to find the midpoint of a line segment. First, we'll learn what the midpoint is and how to find it. Then we'll complete 2 examples just like what you'll see in your practice problems. So, what exactly is the midpoint? If you break up the word midpoint into mid and point, what do you think it would mean? Well, here's 2 points, and we can connect them with a line segment. The midpoint would be the point halfway across this line segment, or directly in the middle of the 2 points. Can you take a good guess as to where the midpoint is on this line segment? Are you thinking it's somewhere in here? Can you be really specific and tell me an actual point exactly where the middle is? How about this? Does drawing in this triangle help at all? Okay, I know that was a lot of questions, so let's go through this together. If we want to go from one point to the other, we have to move 5 spaces horizontally and 12 spaces vertically. And if we want the midpoint, we only go halfway. Half of 5 is 2.5, and half of 12 is 6. And now we have the midpoint. You may be wondering why I had you review averages before starting this lesson. Well, another way to get to the middle of 2 numbers is by averaging them together. Let's take the x values and average them. What's the average of -3 and 2? Pause the video now and calculate this yourself. Did you get -0.5, which happens to be the x value of our midpoint? And what about the average of the -5 and 7? Pause the video to calculate the average of these. Did you get 1, which is also the y value of the midpoint? This is the shortcut for finding the midpoint, rather than drawing in a triangle, which would really stink with big numbers anyway. We can find the average of the x values and the average of the y values to find the midpoint. If we use more generic notation for these points, we could come up with a formula. We had to add x1 and x2 and divide by 2 to average them. That gave us the x value of the midpoint. And averaging the y values together gave us the y value of the midpoint. Let's give this a try. Find the midpoint of the segment with endpoints at -4, 9 and 8, -1. You may choose to label your points like this and substitute their values into the midpoint formula, or maybe you choose to label your points like this. Either way is fine. Well, let's go ahead and use these particular labels so we all have the same work for this problem. Take some time here to pause the video and find the midpoint. Check that you substituted the values into our formula correctly. Then we have that -4 plus 8 is 4. And since adding a negative is the same as subtracting a positive, 9 minus 1 is 8. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. And that's our answer. 2, 4 is the midpoint. Here's one final problem for us to do. It says to find the midpoint of the segment with endpoints at 3, -5 and -4, 6. You may choose to label your points like this and substitute their values in the midpoint formula, or maybe you choose to label your points like this. I want you to choose this time and go ahead and solve this problem yourself. Pause the video now. When adding the x values of 3 and -4, did you get -1? Notice here that I put the negative in front of the fraction, but you could put it in the numerator too. And when adding the y values, did you get +1? We can convert both of these to decimals, since we wouldn't have to round to do so. And voila! We have our midpoint. Now you can find the midpoint of a line segment without having to draw and count units on a coordinate plane. Although this can be used to check your work if the numbers aren't too tough to accurately draw. We now know the midpoint formula, which will work every time. See you next time.